Welcome to Sex Positive Gaming. I'm Annie, and today we're going to continue the Flavor of the Week series with the most requested flavor, corruption. So what exactly is corruption when it comes to sexual flavors? Well, in most societies, our access to sexuality is highly restricted with a ton of rules, regulations, and well, shaming. Corruption is fantasy about the rapid removal of those barriers. If this is about sexual gatekeeping, then these 10 titles will help you tear down those gates. In these games, the corruption can come from magic, chemicals, superpowers, or even just reinforcing behaviors. First up, we're going to look at 3 games that corrupt using behavior. VenusBlood Frontier International is a Steam release where you play as the god Loki. This is a tactical strategy game where you build your armies to fight, defeat, and capture various goddesses and demonesses. After capture, you have the option to corrupt or purify your divine waifus through events and dating sim-style mechanics. Be aware that the more you corrupt those around you, the more corrupted you also become. It's that whole Nietzsche thing. He who fights monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. Just make sure to download the patch from Just USA if you do get the Steam version, for plot reasons. I covered Roundscape last week. This is a classic turn-based RPG where you have the ability to fully corrupt you and your party of men, women, monsters, and furries. Well, except for Rule the Tentacle Monster and Silas the Chaos Mage Demon. I mean, it's understandable. Tentacle Monster and Chaos Mage Demon kinda scream corruption. The game is fantastic and I highly recommend it to anyone who is looking for an epic story to go with their adult content. In the Tyrant, you play as a young man that returns to his hometown to find things have gone terribly wrong. The family you are staying with has come under the sway of organized crime as a part of a deep cover operation. The corruption mechanic here is unusual in that there are the standard love and corruption options, outfits, and encounters, but you are also competing with other men in a winner-take-all NTR slugfest. You do have the option to totally remove the competition or make the other men all but guaranteed to win, but I really like the challenge the gameplay provides. Look for my full review on Friday. Now we'll take a look at 2 games where corruption happens through magic. But before we go any further, I do want to take a second to address something that some of you have asked me about: consent. I brought this up in my second video ever, my Seeds of Chaos review, another great corruption game that I'm not revisiting today. Fictional characters cannot give consent for the same reason that a piece of paper can't give consent. So all of this garbage about consent in fiction is really ridiculous. You don't ask for consent when you're playing Call of Duty or Skyrim before you murder a person because they're not real. What I really love is when people complain on Twitter or YouTube with their cell phones, actual objects made by real-life slave labor, to complain about if Bella could really consent to having mutant vampire babies with Edward. Anyways, like I was saying, corruption through magic. In the Spellbook, you use, a spellbook to corrupt all of the women around you. This game is really gorgeous and is more of a choose-your-own-adventure style of visual novel. The big choice is, do you want a Netorare story or a harem? As the story progresses, you also get to choose the type of harem or NTR experience you want to have. Do you want to share your harem? Do you want to have a darker NTR experience where you have limited sexual interactions? The choice is yours. Or you could just be like me and play all of the variations. The game is free to play with earlier access to builds through a Patreon subscription. Sorry, currently the game does not support Android. In Corrupted Kingdoms, you die, learn magic, and then corrupt everyone around you through that magic. It's like High School DxD, but you get furries and impregnation to go with your monsters and demon girls. I actually like this game so much that I'll be covering it later this month. Oh man, a High School DxD game with adult content would be so much fun. No, the DS games do not count. You could do the chess battles as a tactical strategy, collecting souls as a management sim. Who am I kidding? I take Persona 5 with more adult content. Anyways, Corrupted Kingdoms. Great game for magical corruption that I'm covering in depth later this month. For magical corruption, we go to corruption via superpowers. Wait, Annie, isn't that just magic? I don't know, ask Disney and Marvel. They seem to think there's a difference and I'm not crazy enough to fight with that mouse. Speaking of not messing with the mouse, next up is an X-Men parody roguelike evolution. You are a new mutant whose powers are being immune to everyone else's powers and addictive corrupting pheromones. With these powers, you can stop all of the evil mutants threatening the safety of the multiverse, or you could just hang around Charles Xavier's school of gifted youngsters and slowly build your own harem of increasingly skimpily dressed members of the X-Men, starting with, of course given in the title, everyone's favorite hapaphobic, Rogue. I mean, it is technically a touching love story. In Superpowered, you are a young adult that lives in a world where you have the chance to gain a superpower through an injection. Your character is unique in that they can eventually gain all of the powers, including mind control and emotional manipulation, along with flight, speed, and other lamer, non-corruption related powers. Will you be a villain or a hero? Will you lower the inhibitions of all those around you, or just corrupt everyone into one unending orgy? This game has been in development for well over 5 years, and the visuals show it. But if you can get past the visual limitations, grindy gameplay, and limited storyline, the corruption mechanic is freaking awesome. Our last 2 titles focus on using chemicals to corrupt and change those around you. I would have added Lab Rats 2 to this list, but the game is mostly just a framework. Once there is actually in-depth gameplay, I'm really looking forward to reviewing it. I covered Last Epidemic earlier this week. In it, I described this adventure game as a Scooby-Doo mystery. The only thing I'll add is that the Scooby snacks are purple and they allow you to corrupt everyone around you. And I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids and your impregnation orgy. And finally, we have corruption. To be honest, this one is on the list because you use potions to gradually corrupt the whole town, and I didn't want to have to deal with all of the "why didn't you have corruption on your list of corruption games, Annie?" Do I know if the whole town gets corrupted? No. But so far you can corrupt the college, the hospital, the police station, City Hall, the church, the TV station, your work, fast food places, and random neighborhoods. So I think it's safe to say that it will eventually be the whole town. This title is less of a game and more of a kinetic journey. It is fun and some of the animations are ridiculous, but be aware this is one of those Patreon games where the graphics improve over time as the developer got more funding. So there you have it. I hope everyone can find a game from this list that helps fill whatever flavor of corruption they're looking for. Let me know what your favorite corruption game is. I want to hear from you even if you disagree with me. The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. Seriously, no one does corruption like Nietzsche. And as always, no shaming, just gaming.